Gorod Krovi was going to have loads more content, and thanks to the leaked developer documents, we can now see it all. In this video, I want to take a deep dive into this new leaked Black Ops 3 content and discuss some never-before-seen zombie secrets with you all. A new power system, cut quests, and something you may have heard about before. A cut Iron Man suit. All of that and more will be unveiled and detailed in this video, so stay tuned until the very end. The leaked developer documents for Gorod Krovi reveal a wealth of cut features that never made it into the final version. These ideas were detailed in various design documents, showing ambitious plans for gameplay mechanics, combat encounters, and quest elements that would have added layers of complexity and variety to the map set in a dragon-infested Stalingrad. The documents outline concepts like specialized command room ambushes, a diesel fuel resource system, a friendly sentinel drone ally, ways to harness Dragonfire, a player-controlled power armor suit, and Russian supply drops. Each of these features was envisioned to tie into the map's themes of war-torn environments, elemental power-ups, and survival against overwhelming odds. Let's break them down one by one, exploring the full details from the documents to understand what could have been. Starting with the diesel power system, which appears to have been a major design through line for the map. The core resource management mechanic was cut, but would have fundamentally shaped how players progressed and interacted with the environment, introducing strategic gathering and allocation of fuel that powered nearly everything. Many of the other cut features we'll discuss either directly used diesel power, worked alongside it, or provided alternatives to it, underscoring its central role in the team's vision for Gorod Krovi. The map would have been powered on one section at a time via localized power stations found in special command rooms spread across the level. Flipping these switches would activate a diesel generator in the command room, connecting that generator to a global diesel supply pool and allowing players to deposit diesel fuel there. This fuel was a unique pickup dropped from zombie kills, making every enemy defeat a potential step towards powering up the map and keeping it powered on. This makes sense because in the version of Gorod Krovi we have now, there is only one traditional power switch in a relatively simple place, likely a last-minute addition once diesel power was removed. Diving deeper into the diesel fuel details, it was occasionally dropped by zombies when they died, in 1 unit increments. Players would collect it by simply running over it, just like a power-up drop, and could then feed it into any of the diesel generators on the map. Each command room combat event, which we'll explore later, was guaranteed to drop at least 1 unit of diesel per player in the room, ensuring that surviving these ambushes provided a reliable way to earn it in early progression. Certain enemy types, such as the Mangler, would always drop a diesel unit. Diesel drops would despawn after a fixed time period, similar to power-ups, meaning once they dropped they had to be grabbed quickly, and if all players were full on diesel, someone would need to quickly deposit some. The drop rates could even be adjusted on the fly during gameplay to optimize the player experience, but they had not managed to implement that at the time of the document. It was only an idea. Each player could only hold up to 5 units of diesel at a time, though this limit was open to adjustment. Once deposited into a generator, the diesel fuel would feed into a global diesel supply, which allowed players to spend the diesel anywhere on the map they needed to. 1 unit of diesel fuel would get spent from this global supply each time a player activated one of the powered objects, such as a perk machine, summoning a dragon platform, activating a trap, or using the Pack-a-Punch machine. The documents expressed concern that this might be too costly or punitive for something like Pack-a-Punch, considering the effort required to access the machine already, and suggest re-evaluating that aspect once implemented. It does make sense with what we saw in the map as well, as the dragon platforms only ended up costing 500 points, which amounts to essentially nothing. Likely a quick fee tacked on to replace the cost of diesel. Additionally, diesel fuel was required to use the player armored suit, a feature we'll detail later, further tying it into high-impact gameplay moments and most big things in the map. The generators themselves were central to this system. Inside each command room, players would find a diesel-powered generator. In order for this each generator to provide power, a player had to deposit at least 1 unit of diesel fuel into it. Each generator had an interact prompt that allowed players to deposit their collected diesel, but this prompt wouldn't be usable until the generator switch was flipped. Using the prompt would deposit all of the player's diesel into the global diesel supply at once. As soon as the first unit of diesel was added, the generator would turn itself on automatically, with very noticeable sounds and visuals accompanying the activation to make it feel rewarding and impactful. Players could always add more diesel fuel to the generator later, up to a maximum of 10 units, but they couldn't remove diesel once it had been put in. To communicate the global diesel supply level to players, multiple methods were planned. Old-fashioned gas meters in each command room displaying the global supply, a HUD element showing the amount of diesel available, and the diesel supply level visible on the status screen of the pause menu. Nothing had been decided concretely. At higher rounds, players would be able to permanently power on a generator so that it no longer required diesel, achieved through an Easter egg quest with details on that not yet ironed out at the time this document was saved. The command room switches were a key component of this diesel power ecosystem. Each command room contained a power switch, alongside several objects that required power. Once the switch was activated, any powered objects attached to it would be connected to the power grid, meaning they could be used as long as the main generator had at least 1 diesel unit in it. These switches would also connect power to some objects outside the command room itself, but still in the general vicinity, extending the system's reach so that each generator was its own corner of the map. Each individual use of a powered object, whether opening a door, turning on a trap, buying a perk, or anything else, would consume 1 unit of fuel from the main generator it was attached to. When the diesel ran out, any powered objects would become temporarily unavailable until the generator was refueled. The status screen on the pause menu would indicate which command rooms had been switched on, similar to the generators in Origins. To clearly communicate that 1 unit of diesel was consumed with each use, additional user interface and visual messaging were planned for that cost, though we see no visual concepts for any of that planned UI here. In the backlog section, it's noted that filling the generator with diesel would take time. Each unit added would require about 1 second, and for every second the player continued to perform the filling action, another unit would get added, up to the maximum capacity of 10. The player wouldn't have to press interact multiple times. They could simply hold the button for longer to deposit more diesel, streamlining the process while adding a tactical element during combat. Key assets for this system included art elements like the diesel fuel drop model, the diesel generator model, an area of the generator for depositing the fuel, and gas meters in each command room. UI assets would cover counters for diesel fuel drops and messaging that 1 unit was consumed per use. Animations, visual effects like FX when diesel was consumed or used, sound effects for picking up diesel, and voiceover lines for special dialogue when using diesel, when it was running low, and when it ran out were all outlined in the documents. This entire diesel power system would have introduced strategic resource gathering and allocation, making every zombie kill and command room visit crucial for progression and survival, while serving as the backbone for many other features, such as powering ambushes, fueling mech suits, and being supplemented by drops or Dragonfire enhancements. Next up are the command room combat encounters. The documents describe command rooms as special areas spread across the map where players would flip power switches to activate localized sections, directly tying it into the diesel power system by requiring fuel deposits and switch activations to enable powered elements during and after fights. These rooms were meant to host ambush events, turning them into intense combat arenas that leverage the diesel mechanics for high-risk, high-reward gameplay. The design emphasized varied layouts to create unique fights not typically seen in zombies maps. For instance, many encounters could fit into a standard layout, which was just an example to illustrate requirements, not a fixed shape. The standard setup would work for various named events they had planned, like smoke bomb, flame spurt, grenade pong, spawn camping, strobe crawlers, and any of the attack of the encounters. Planned waves of entirely one enemy type culminating in attack of the everything. Other layouts were more specialized, such as one for turret trouble, which added central cover to help players dodge turret fire while still accommodating standard events. Notice how the turret trouble layout would also work fine for most of the events used in a standard layout. It simply added some cover in the center of the room to help players avoid the turret fire. The ambush event ideas list several potential encounters in detail. Fire zombies would trap players in a room encircled by flames. As zombies entered, they would ignite, dealing extra fire damage to players on contact. This would force careful positioning to avoid both the burning undead and the surrounding fire wall. levels. Strobe crawlers involved entering a well-lit room with crawl spaces around the walls. Suddenly, the lights would flicker or strobe, giving players brief glimpses of zombies crawling in from openings and down these surfaces. The erratic lighting would disorient players, making it harder to track and eliminate the incoming threats. Water rise would flood the room to waist-deep levels, slowing player movement. Zombies would then emerge one by one from beneath the water, creating a tense, unpredictable spawn pattern. Players could counter this by activating an electrical trap to electrify the water, wiping out hordes in one go. A mechanic that would likely tie back into the diesel system for trap activation costs. Defend placed players on a small catwalk near a generator. Zombies could only access by climbing up, turning the encounter into a defensive holdout where players funneled enemies into kill zones from an elevated position, reminiscent of DRAGONFIRE's iconic catwalk. Smoke bombs filled the room with smoke from grenades, obscuring vision while normal zombies spawned. This would emphasize audio cues and close quarters combat in low visibility. Flame Spurt featured vents on the floor and walls that sporadically shot vertical and horizontal jets of fire. Each burst was preceded by a warning sound, similar to the flame spurts in The Princess Bride's Fire Swamp, the same example given for reference in the documents. Players had to dodge these while fighting zombies, who ignored the flames but could catch fire, spreading damage in a small radius around them. Attack of the Everything threw a mix of enemies at players: German sentinel drones, heavy Russian soldiers, and regular zombies. This chaotic blend would require adapting to different threat types simultaneously and being thoroughly prepared. Scared of the Dark began with a tense delay before lights flickered and went out completely. Players would then fight zombies illuminated only by their glowing eyes, relying on limited visual information. These encounters were designed to leverage the command room's isolation, making power activation a high-risk, high-reward activity that directly fed into the diesel economy through guaranteed fuel drops. Following that, the friendly Sentinel drone was a convertible enemy ally that interacted with the diesel system by offering an alternative powering method. Players would be able to perform a quest in which they acquired a special item to convert a hostile German Sentinel drone into a friendly AI unit, which we will explain in a moment. The converted drone had combat functionality and would protect the player, but could also be moved across the map in order to power on any 115 and powered object, including those normally activated with diesel power generators. Most importantly, there were certain progression gates planned not powered by diesel generators, because none were nearby, and these could only be unlocked via the friendly Sentinel drone, providing a bypass to the fuel constraints, essentially unlocking new routes or shortcuts. The drone control device quest was located in one of the mid-game command rooms, where players would discover an unusual contraption resembling an electric chair. It featured a chair to sit in, a metallic harness or head covering that lowered into place, and a large socket for inserting a specifically shaped object, labeled DCD. The object that fit into the socket was the Drone Control Device, or DCD for short, an item picked up from a randomized location on the map. Players could interact with the contraption to sit in the chair at any time, but if the power was off or the socket empty, nothing would happen. Once the DCD was placed and power was on, likely requiring diesel activation, sitting in the chair would trigger a brief FX display as Element 115 coursed through the player, aligning the DCD to the player's signature to label similar signatures as friends and others as enemies. After a few seconds, the contraption would wind down, kicking the player out, and the realigned DCD could be removed and taken into inventory. With the DCD in hand, players had to find or create a corpse of a hostile German Sentinel drone and use the DCD on it via a long interaction timer to convert it. Once reprogrammed, the friendly Sentinel drone would return to life and act as a stationary ally turret, shooting its lightning gun at enemies in range. The drone could be moved by interacting to grab it, which took away the player's ability to shoot or attack since they were holding it with both hands, but they could still move freely while the drone continued attacking hostiles. To place it down, players would press interact again. Kills by the stationary drone granted no points, but kills while a player held it awarded points as if the player made them. The drone was ignored by zombies, but could be damaged and destroyed by friendly fire Dragonfire or Dragonfire, requiring a new one to be downed and reprogrammed. When placed close to any unpowered 115 powered object, the drone would automatically channel power into it, diverting its lightning gun to the task and stopping attacks until picked up again. This feature would have added a mobile utility companion, blending combat and puzzle solving in a unique way, while serving as a clever counterpoint to the Diesel system's limitations. It left you with the option of either a free turret or free power for a specific item. Harnessing Dragonfire was another cut feature that allowed players to capture and use Dragon Breath for boost, notably integrating with Diesel by offering ways to eliminate fuel needs. Before the 115 bomb dropped, a Russian soldier in Stalingrad was investigating methods to harness Dragonfire for her army's advantage. She devised special containers called Dragonfire Catch devices, found throughout the city. When a dragon burned a section containing one, it would fill with Dragonfire for about 2 minutes. Players could interact to obtain raw Dragonfire in a small, heavy glass container, which would burn out and disappear from inventory after 2 minutes, indicated by a timer. The soldier also created a stabilization apparatus in her laboratory inside a command room, converting the raw fire into a magma-like liquid Dragonfire that didn't burn out. Players inserted raw Dragonfire into a lab slot before it expired to stabilize it. They could carry at most one raw or liquid Dragonfire, not both or multiples, and these were inventory items. Neo-boostable objects, a contextual prompt like press Y to use Dragonfire above the normal press X to interact would appear. These uses were varied and powerful, applying it to diesel power generators for unlimited diesel, removing the need for constant refueling, using it on war weapon spaces to permanently give the weapon Dragonfire ammunition with increased damage and a burning effect, though not as strong as Pack-a-Punch, applying it to a gobblegum machine to make it spit out a bunch of random gobblegums onto the floor for pickup, or using it on wooden obstacles, if any existed, to burn them away as a substitute for point buys or powering doors. Documentation from the Russian soldiers' experiments was scattered throughout the level, providing hints to guide players on harnessing and using Dragonfire. This would have tied dragon attacks into rewarding opportunities, encouraging environmental awareness and offering a high reward alternative to diesel dependency. The player power armor suit, formerly known as the Russian mech, was a pilotable exosuit for annihilating zombies, directly reliant on the diesel system for fuel and representing one of its key high-cost applications. One of the new features for this DLC would have been this player-piloted power armor suit, or PAS for short, using various weapons to destroy zombies with limited time availability, fueled by diesel drops from kills. It was required to win boss fights against the dragon and Nikolai, making it essential for Easter egg completion. Players would quest to gather parts: the helmet, the breastplate, and lightning cannon, and the missile pod. Activation happened at a power armor station, where the player floated up, the items disappeared from shared inventory, and pieces flew down from the sky to assemble around them. Referencing Iron Man's Mark 42 armor, it couldn't be activated with an active dragon gauntlet. The PAS ran off of diesel, requiring 5 units of diesel at the ready, a full inventory. Once fueled, another interact started it for a fixed 30-second base time before breaking apart. It was a first-person transformation like beast mode, making players immune to damage, though any taken reduced duration. The right arm had a lightning cannon, long range, highly accurate, high rate of fire, instant damage, 5-shot magazine, quick reload. The left arm featured an early prototype Hydra missile pod. Burst-fired 3 grenade-like projectiles that looked like many little rockets, arcing to different short and mid-range locations, traveling fast and detonating on impact, with 3 bursts before a long LMG-like reload, which you can see the reference as in the documents. A rocket punch ranged melee acted like Mob of the Dead's Tomahawk, knocking down walls for shortcuts and picking up power-ups. Designed to fight dragons, it could interrupt attacks with enough damage, causing a dragon scale to fly off for crafting, probably for the dragon shield. The backlog included 3 personal upgrades not shared between players: a damage upgrade infusing weapons with Dragonfire for more damage, a small stackable damage over time on targets especially useful for big enemies, and adding a rocket charge punch by pressing L1, R1 to ignite boosters and launch forward, smashing zombies, like this clip of the elbow rocket from Pacific Rim referenced in the documents. Upgrade 2 added a grappling hook functionality like Shadows of Evil's Beast Mode for new map areas. Upgrade 3 expanded fuel tanks to double use time. This suit would have offered power fantasy moments, essential for progression, exploration, and bosses, all powered by the diesel system. Finally, Russian supply drops provided random aid and tied back into Diesel by potentially dropping fuel units. Players could call in these big crates to various drop points around the map, containing random power-ups, weapons, and other supplies. Each command room contained a map with 4 drop points marked by letters, possibly Cyrillic, like the symbols you can see on screen, consistent across all rooms. There was also a control board with 4 switches, each marked with one of the letters, interactable for 1,500 points. Using a switch played a confirmation noise or Russian voiceover announcing an inbound drop, with the crate parachuting from a high-flying plane to the market spot. Once activated, that switch was disabled across all command rooms until the drop was opened. It seemed that this system was potentially reworked into what would become Groff modules. The crate, when opened, spawned random things or sets, like a weapon buy weight 2, power-up weight 1, random perk weight 3, random gobblegum weight 1, diesel fuel weight 1, magic box weight 2. I guess this is very similar to the supply drops that we eventually saw shipped over by Omega in Outbreak in Black Ops Cold War Zombies, all of those years later. To determine contents, items were weighed, with each drop totaling exactly 3 weight. The script randomly picked until hitting 3 total weight, removing incompatibility options if needed, e.g. a weight 2 first removed weight 3 possibilities. Weapon buys came from a predetermined set, details not yet determined. The magic box had a fixed lifetime, like a power-up, or fixed uses before despawning, essentially creating a new second mystery box temporarily. Supply drops could be attacked and destroyed by German Sentinel drones, with a good amount of health giving players time to intervene, possibly with map-wide announcements or notifications warning of attacks. This added a risk-reward element to calling in supplies, integrating with drone threats and potentially yielding Diesel to sustain the core power system, and yet again seems to suggest this system became Groff modules after a large rework come the final release of the game. The lead developer documents also provide fascinating insights into how the overall map layout of Gorod Krovi evolved from early concepts to the final shipped version, as illustrated in some of these diagrams. One early ideation sketch shows a more expansive and symmetrical design centered around the fountain spawn points. From this central area, players could branch out in multiple directions, including northward towards apartments and a department store similar to the current map, but also eastward and west to new streets, and crucially, southward to access entirely new zones like an opera house, a museum, and a southern street extension. Lines in the sketch indicate bidirectional traversal possibilities, based on using a tank in certain paths to unlock it or cross it. The map isn't specific, with these paths looping or connecting in ways that suggest a more open, explorable layout. You could have circled outside the map without ever seeing spawn once power was on. This version appears to emphasize player choice in navigation, allowing teams to split or backtrack freely, and incorporates elements like potential command rooms or dragon-related features integrated into these additional areas, which makes far more sense given the scope of different ideas for command room encounters. In contrast, the flowchart representing the shipped map reveals a more linear and streamlined progression that restricts movement primarily forward from the fountain start. Here, paths diverge into 2 main routes, one leading through a department store, alley, and basement areas, and another via streets and 2-story buildings, eventually converging towards judicial or dragon zones without the option for southward exploration. The southern direction, which in the early sketch opened up to the Opera House, Museum, and South Street, was repurposed entirely into the boss arena in the final release, effectively closing off what could have been a mirror-like extension of the map. This change not only simplified traversal to focus on forward momentum and prevent confusion in gameplay, but also eliminated several planned locations that might have housed unique encounters, power switches, or resource drops. As a result, the map's playable area was significantly reduced, potentially halving the overall size compared to the ambitious early vision, which could have doubled the number of explorable districts and interactables. These cut features paint a picture of a more intricate Gorod Krovi, with resource scarcity, dynamic combats, and inventive tools. The Diesel system would have paced progression, while drones, Dragonfire, suits, and drops offered creative synergies. Though streamlined for release, these ideas highlight the developer's vision for depth, leaving us to wonder how they might have shaped the map's legacy if it had been given a bit more time in the oven. However, with zombies, that never quite seems to happen. We have a very rushed release schedule for content, and so oftentimes streamlining something instead of stuffing it with tons of features ends up being the better and cleaner option for Treyarch. But what do you think? Is Gorod Krovi better for having all of this stuff trimmed out into the experience we have now? Is the diesel power too annoying, or do you think all of this stuff would have only made for more to do? Is that a good or a bad thing? Let me know all of your thoughts down below. Personally, I feel this is definitely way too much for the launch map. I definitely get why it ends up mostly being cut, but it's still really interesting looking behind the closed curtains as to the original visions, because most maps, even still nowadays, the actual concepts are way grander than what ends up releasing. 90% of content gets cut and we never see it. It's crazy. But anyways, I think that this is great to catalog the history of how Call of Duty Zombies came to be. Thank you for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe if you're not here for latest and greatest Call of Duty news information. So anyways, thank you for watching, and make sure you check out the other cut content playlist in the description as well. Bye.
Hello guys, this is the Gaming Revolution here, and the DLC 3 Zombies map has just been revealed to us. It's going to be called Gorod Krovi. I probably pronounced that wrong. And basically, the PS4 theme has basically been revealed, and you can see that on screen right now, obviously, and it looks awesome.
To conclude this video, I want to shout out the fact that I finally decided to make a Patreon and Cameo account, both of which will be linked below if you want to help support the channel. On Patreon, you can sign up for the lowest tier of just $1.50 a month to get exclusive access for my Discord, where we can discuss zombies lore, trivia, or whatever you desire. A place where you lot, my community, can better connect. Your names will also appear at the end of videos thanking you. For $5.50 a month, you get all of that, and I will be doing exclusive monthly Q&As. And for $16.50 a month, you again get all of that, and I will be doing exclusive lore videos, such as unpacking niche parts of the Treyarch documents I've been breaking down on my channel that don't as much suit a main channel video. For the highest tier, only for those with the ability to and who really want to help out the channel, you get special bonuses I've yet to determine and verbal shoutouts at the end of every video. Over on Cameo, I can do funny videos reading lines from zombies, memes like how do we tell him, birthday wishes for friends or family, or whatever else you desire, practically anything. Of course, none of this is necessary, just watching and enjoying the videos helps me immensely and I greatly appreciate it. However, I think it's about time I start setting up additional revenue streams because Zombies' popularity is tumultuous and always goes through ups and downs. As I'm sure you've lately seen on the channel, viewership is down a lot. We go through big highs when new games release, but then during these drought periods, I need more income stability so I don't have to worry as much about it and I can focus more on improving the quality of the content. My highest quality videos are not always the ones that best please YouTube algorithms, so instead, this way I can produce my best work knowing I don't have to think as much about how well the content's going to perform. So if you'd like to support me on Patreon for exclusive content or would like a simple Cameo message, you can do so to further support me via the links below, but only if you can afford it and you actually want to help me. Don't feel like you are forced to, don't worry, I'll survive. It would just help relieve some of the pressure during inconsistent periods on the channel so I don't have to solely rely on AdSense revenue and still maintain the sheer quantity and quality of content that I put out. Obviously I pump out literally a boatload of content and some of these are absolutely crazy projects over hour-long videos, so it's a lot on my plate, especially when these videos don't perform particularly well. And I've not been doing many sponsorships lately to help supplement revenue either, so it would greatly help. Thank you for any generous person once again who does kindly support the channel. It means the absolute world and will really help keep this boat afloat.